15 gemstones that hold the power of change. Every gemstone begins in chaos. Fire, pressure, time. Deep within the earth, what once was ordinary stone transforms. Color emerges from darkness, clarity from conflict, beauty from destruction. These are not just minerals. They are memories of change itself, each one holding the story of transformation written in heat and light. Today we uncover 15 gemstones that hold the power of change. Stones born from the Earth's most dramatic moments and believed for centuries to mirror the changes within us. Welcome to Tops, where every gem tells a story of how the Earth and we are forever transformed. Don't forget to press and hold that like button, leave a comment, and hit subscribe before we begin. Ranked 15th, Smoky Quartz, the stone that turned light into shadow. There was no eruption, no earthquake, only time, and an invisible pulse creeping through stone. Inside the granite mountains of the Alps and the Scottish Highlands, crystals of pure quartz formed, clear as frozen air. Around them, minerals rich in uranium released faint radiation. Not enough to destroy, only enough to whisper to matter. Each particle of energy struck the crystal lattice, knocking electrons loose. Those electrons stayed trapped, altering the way light passed through the stone. Slowly, what was once transparent began to darken. No sound, no motion, just the earth, teaching that change doesn't always roar. That quiet transformation gave birth to Smoky Quartz, a gemstone created not by heat or pressure, but by endurance. It is the Earth's memory of invisible change, proof that even the smallest forces, given enough time, can turn clarity into mystery. In the Scottish Highlands, clans once carved these stones into sword pommels. The deeper the color, the stronger the spirit believed to reside within. Victorian jewelers later adopted it as the Cairngorm stone, their mourning gem. Darkness became elegance, and grief found its reflection in glass. Centuries later, across Asia, monks in Tibet polished smoky quartz into prayer beads to calm the mind, while Shinto priests in Japan placed it near temple gates to balance the flow between the seen and unseen. In every culture, this gem carried the same message, that transformation can be sacred, that shadow itself can protect and purify. Today, miners still find these crystals in Brazil, Switzerland, and Colorado. Inside pegmatite cavities at roughly 400 degrees Celsius, smoky quartz forms slowly, not by eruption, but by radiation, a dialogue between energy and patience. When cut and polished, the gem reveals a gradient from soft amber to gray mist, then into the dark tone called morion, where light nearly disappears. Unlike other gems, smoky quartz gains value through its imperfection. The more radiation scars it bears, the richer its color becomes. Its darkness is not a flaw, but the record of survival. To geologists, it's a natural archive of time, a dosimeter that measures how the earth itself changes. To artisans, it's the embodiment of restraint, understated, enduring, and timeless. And to those who seek meaning beyond science, it symbolizes transformation after turmoil, a return to balance after chaos. This is where smoky quartz connects most deeply to the power of change. It reveals that transformation is not always violent or visible. Some forms of change happen molecule by molecule, quietly rewriting reality until the world is never the same again. In nature, in societies, in people, the most lasting shifts are often the ones we barely notice while they unfold. Hold a piece to the light, and you'll see it glow with an inner warmth that wasn't there before. The stone that once captured light now releases it differently, softer, wiser, changed. That is the paradox at its heart. What radiation darkened, time redeemed. Smoky quartz stands as a metaphor for endurance. Beauty shaped not by creation, but by exposure. It teaches that to change is not to break. It is to evolve quietly, to absorb what seems destructive and transform it into depth. Across all 15 gemstones in this journey, each will reveal a different kind of transformation. But smoky quartz begins the countdown because it speaks of change we cannot see, the kind that shapes everything. If the earth can turn radiation into beauty, What unseen changes might already be transforming us? Slowly, silently, right now. Ranked 14th, Tiger's Eye, the stone that changed the way we see. No gem moves, and yet this one seems alive. As the light shifts, a single band of gold glides across its surface, a phenomenon the ancients could not explain. To them, it wasn't reflection, it was a gaze. They called it the eye of the beast, a talisman that could see through darkness and deceit. Tiger's eye is born from transformation, not appearance. It began its life as crocitolite, a fibrous blue mineral rich in iron. Over millions of years, silica from surrounding quartz replaced every strand of fiber, atom by atom, but never erased their pattern. The result? A fossilized shimmer. Geologists call it pseudomorph replacement, the shape of one mineral preserved inside another. Nature's illusion, what looks like silk is stone. That illusion, the shifting line of light called chatoyancy, turned Tiger's Eye into one of history's most misunderstood gemstones. Roman soldiers wore it engraved with Mars and victory, believing it made their vision sharper in battle. Centuries later, Arab merchants carried it through the deserts, convinced it guarded travelers from the evil eye. In India, artisans carved it into amulets shaped like eyes to confuse spirits said to bring misfortune. Across cultures, one belief endured: whoever holds the tiger's eye can see what others miss. Its discovery in South Africa during the 19th century changed not only jewelry, but the mining world. At first, prospectors mistook it for gold, locked inside stone. They called it the false gold of the Northern Cape. But when sunlight danced across it, they realized they had found something rarer than metal, a gem that moved with light itself. By the early 1900s, tiger's eye jewelry swept through Europe's Art Nouveau salons, symbolizing modernity, perception, and courage. This is the power of change that tiger's eye represents. Transformation not of substance, but of vision. Nothing in it truly moves, yet every observer swears it does. It reminds us that perception itself is fragile. A slight shift in light can rewrite reality. Today, tiger's eye is mined primarily in South Africa, Western Australia, and Thailand. When polished into cabochon, the best stones reveal a single, clean stripe that seems to glide beneath the surface. Jewelry cutters orient each piece with surgical precision. If the angle is wrong, the eye disappears completely. Its price, modest by gem standards, depends less on carat weight and more on motion, how fluidly the eye travels. But beyond trade, this gem's legacy continues in belief. In modern metaphysics, it is known as a stone of clarity and discernment, grounding emotion, sharpening intuition. Soldiers in the Second World War carried small tumbled pieces for courage. Today, psychologists sometimes use it as a metaphor for mindfulness, the act of seeing without judging, of letting perception shift until truth emerges. In tiger's eye, every ray of light is both revelation and illusion, a lesson that change is not always in the world, but in the way we witness it. Geologically, it is a monument to patience, a transformation so slow that neither the human eye nor even Earth's tectonics could notice. Spiritually, it's a mirror for awareness, the understanding that clarity doesn't come from stillness, but from movement between shadow and light. Tiger's eye sits at number 14 in this countdown because it bridges two realms of transformation, the physical and the perceptual. It tells us that change isn't only what happens to matter, but what happens through perception. Light moves, we follow, and reality changes shape before our eyes. If this gem surprised you, if you've ever felt the world shift simply because you looked at it differently, leave a comment and share your thoughts. When reality itself can change with a shift of light, how many of our certainties are just reflections waiting to move? Ranked 13th, citrine, the stone, forged by fire. At first glance, citrine looks like sunlight frozen inside quartz. But this golden gem was not born bright, it became bright. Its very color is the result of transformation, of fire rewriting stone. In the depths of the earth, amethyst and smoky quartz once slept in veins of granite and basalt. When magma or tectonic heat rose around them, their atomic lattice began to rearrange. Iron impurities, once purple, shifted oxidation states. violet surrendered to yellow. What had been calm and regal became warm and alive. That moment of metamorphosis, where heat conquers stillness, is the origin of citrine. To geologists, this changes chemistry. To history, it is alchemy. Traders from ancient Greece and Rome carved the crystals into intaglios and talismans. They called it the merchant's stone, believing it could draw wealth and success from the chaos of chance. But many of those early citrines were not natural at all. They were amethysts transformed in human kilns. By the 18th century, gem cutters in Europe discovered that heating purple quartz to about 450 degrees Celsius turned it into a golden gem nearly indistinguishable from the natural variety. Fire, both geological and artificial, became part of citrine's identity. This dual origin blurred the line between nature and artifice. Was a heated amethyst still a gemstone, or an imitation? Jewelry houses debated the question for decades, yet customers cared little. The color of sunlight sold itself. In the Art Deco era, designers like René Lalique and Cartier crowned their geometric settings with honeytone quartz, calling it the stone of optimism during the Great Depression. Citrine's rise from obscurity was, once again, a story of change, this time not of temperature, but of meaning. Under polarized light, thin plates of citrine reveal clouds and fractures, reminders of the heat that changed them. Each imperfection is a scar of transformation, a geological record of resilience. The finest stones display a balanced golden hue without a trace of brown or orange. Their value is modest by gem standards, yet no other quartz carries such a symbolic weight. The warmth of light after darkness, the fortune that follows loss. In energy folklore, citrine is said to transmute negative emotion into vitality. Merchants place it beside cash registers. Healers call it the stone of manifestation. Even skeptics recognize its psychological power. Its color evokes confidence, a visual reminder that transformation can be luminous rather than destructive. From a scientific lens, citrine's change is a dialogue between chaos and control. Too little heat and amethyst remains violet. Too much and the crystal cracks or turns dull brown. Somewhere between destruction and endurance lies beauty. That balance is what the earth perfected, and humanity imitated. This is the power of change embodied, a gem that exists only because something once stable dared to face the fire. Citrine teaches that transformation is not always loss. Sometimes it is refinement. The same heat that can break stone can also reveal its hidden color. Hold a piece of citrine to the sun, and it answers with its own. Light passes through, deepens, and returns warmer. Proof that what survives fire shines differently forever. Across our countdown, every gemstone tells a story of transformation. Smoky quartz spoke of invisible change. Citrine speaks of visible rebirth. From here, the journey descends deeper into the Earth's furnace, where pressure, flame, and time continue to sculpt the impossible. If this gem's story of rebirth through fire surprised you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. When pressure and heat test us, do we darken like stone or glow brighter like citrine? Ranked 12th. Garnet, the stone that was reborn in fire. Before it was a gem, garnet was a memory of collision. Continents grinding, mountains rising, minerals reborn under fire. Every crystal of garnet begins not in calm, but in upheaval. It forms when rocks are forced to change state. Shale becomes schist, limestone becomes marble, and the old minerals melt away, replaced by something new. That new structure, rich in iron and aluminum, grows under immense heat and pressure, crystallizing into the blood-red geometry of garnet. To the earth, this is metamorphosis. To us, it is a rebirth. Garnet's story is older than civilization. It has been found in the ruins of Egypt, buried with pharaohs to guide them into the afterlife. Roman legions carried it into battle, set in gold signet rings, the color of victory and survival. Medieval knights wore it on their armor, believing its deep red could stop bleeding. In Sanskrit, its name means the fire within, a symbol of the soul's endurance through destruction. This enduring color, from crimson to orange, green, or violet, is not one hue but many species united by the same crystal code. pyrope from metamorphic rock, almandine from iron-rich schist, grossular from calcium marbles. Each variety is the product of a different geological crisis, a different rebirth. It is as if the Earth itself were experimenting with transformation, rewriting its own formula for life beneath every mountain range. Each face carries traces of the rock it replaced, like a memory of what came before. Throughout history, humanity saw in garnet the exact truth nature had already written, that beauty emerges from survival. When ancient traders brought it along the Silk Road, it became a stone of travelers and healers. In Bohemia, 16th century miners extracted blood-red pyrope from metamorphic rock that once lay under prehistoric seas. Seabeds reborn as mountains, transformed once again into gems. By the Victorian era, garnet had become the emblem of sentimentality and loss. Brooches and necklaces of deep red stones were worn as tokens of mourning, connecting the living and the dead. The cycle of creation, destruction, and rebirth continued in symbolism as it had in geology. Hold a garnet to the light, and it does not sparkle like a diamond. It burns. The fire inside it is steady, unwavering, like something that remembers every trial it has survived. Modern gemologists classify garnet as one of the few minerals capable of recording metamorphic history, a time capsule for the temperature and pressure of its birth. Each inclusion, each change in color or refractive index tells scientists what happened millions of years ago deep within the crust. No two garnets are ever identical because no two transformations ever repeat. The gem is not simply a result of change, it is the record of change itself. Today, garnet continues to symbolize endurance. In birthstones, in industry, even in technology, where its hardness and stability are used for laser optics and precision abrasives. It remains what it always was, a survivor of extremes, reborn each time the world breaks and rebuilds itself. And that is why garnet stands at number 12 in this journey. A reminder that the power of change is not about perfection, but persistence. It is about what remains after transformation has burned away everything that cannot endure. In every culture, every age, garnet has meant the same thing. Life renewed by struggle. The deeper it's read, the more it reminds us that what was once broken can live again. If the earth must break itself to create something new, what parts of us must burn away before we are reborn? Ranked 11th, Imperial Topaz, the flame that power tried to own. Long before it was called Imperial, this gem was simply fire trapped in stone. Topaz, born from the cooling veins of volcanic rock, is pure aluminum silicate, colorless at birth. But deep within the mines of Ouro Preto, Brazil, the stone absorbed traces of chromium and iron, and something extraordinary happened. It turned gold, a living flame inside the earth's crust. The locals called it Topázio Genuine, royal topaz, a name whispered with both reverence and envy. When Portuguese explorers arrived in the 18th century, they mistook it for gold itself. The slopes of Minas Gerais glowed at sunrise as miners pulled fiery crystals from clay, their edges catching light like shards of the sun. It didn't take long for this gem to become currency, a symbol of ambition, empire, and control. By the early 1800s, the Russian czars claimed the world's finest topaz as their own. Catherine the Great ordered that only the royal family could possess stones of the deep orange-pink hue, the color that seemed to burn without consuming itself. Thus, Imperial Topaz earned its name, and its story became one of power attempting to trademark beauty. Its structure tells the same story its history does: pressure seeking freedom. Imperial Topaz is found almost nowhere else on Earth. In Ouro Preto, literally black gold, it occurs in weathered pockets of quartzite, where hydrothermal fluids once surged through fractures in ancient granite. Each crystal took millions of years to form, and none are exactly alike. Colors range from champagne to vivid peach, honey, amber, and the rare imperial pink, prized above all. When cut, light moves through it like liquid metal. When heated too far, that color disappears forever. Its value, like power itself, is a balance between brilliance and fragility. In the 19th century, gem dealers in Europe treated paler stones with heat to intensify the hue, an imitation of nature's own ambition. Markets surged, fortunes rose and fell, and nations competed for access to Brazilian mines. But beneath the trade and titles, the gem story remained the same: fire captured, controlled, and coveted. To the miners of Minas Gerais, topaz was both livelihood and legend. They said it was the stone that remembered the sun, that each crystal carried the heat of the day it was born. For them, it wasn't about empires or fashion. It was about transformation, the Earth's raw power made visible. Today, imperial topaz remains one of the rarest gemstones still mined by hand. Each gem that surfaces has already lived through its own revolution, forged in magma, fractured by tectonics, weathered by water, rediscovered by human ambition. In its golden heart lies a lesson. Everything that burns bright invites the desire to possess it, but true power, like actual change, cannot be owned, only witnessed. Imperial topaz stands at number 11 in this journey because it represents transformation through ambition, both the Earth's and humanity's. The planet transformed simple quartzite into fire. Empires transformed that fire into wealth, prestige, and obsession. Yet in the end, the gem remains unchanged, patient, enduring, unclaimed by those who sought to own it. When light passes through imperial topaz, it refracts into a spectrum of golds and pinks, a royal palette painted by heat and time. It is the reminder that power is not in the act of taking, but in the endurance to shine without being consumed. If this story of flame and ambition resonates with you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. When humanity tries to own the light, does it ever truly possess it, or merely hold a reflection of the Earth's own desire to change? Ranked 10th, fire opal, the flame that lives in water. It begins with contradiction, a gem of fire that is also a child of water. Beneath ancient volcanoes in Mexico, silica-rich rain once seeped through lava, cooling it from within. Each drop carried microscopic particles, building layer upon layer until a cavity that once burned with magma was filled with liquid light. That is how fire opal was born, flame reborn as fluid. When sunlight strikes it, colors ripple like embers beneath the surface. Orange, red, and gold flicker as if the stone still remembers heat. To geologists, it is hydrated silica, nearly 10% water by weight. To poets and traders for 2,000 years, it has been something else entirely, a spark that feels alive. In the Aztec world, fire opal was sacred. They called it Quetzalcoatlitl, the precious birdstone of the heart. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the 1500s, they took the stones to Europe, where their fiery color stunned jewelers who had never seen opal without milky haze. To the Europeans, it was an impossible paradox, a gemstone that burned without destroying itself. Every shimmer is the echo of a droplet trapped in stone. Most fire opals are found near Querétaro, Mexico, in volcanic layers over 10 million years old. The mines there are narrow and treacherous, veins less than a meter wide, riddled through brittle tuff. Miners carve by hand, listening for a hollow sound that means they've reached a pocket of silica gel turned gemstone. Each crystal they uncover still holds a trace of its birthplace, a thin whisper of moisture sealed since the Pliocene. Unlike precious opal, fire opal often glows even without play of color. Its beauty lies not in shifting hues, but in depth, the sensation that a flame flickers beneath the surface. That internal glow has fascinated civilizations for centuries, yet it also makes the stone fragile. Exposed to heat or drought, the water inside can escape, and the gem will crack, a reminder that passion, untended, destroys itself. In the 19th century, fire opal became Mexico's national stone, symbolizing resilience through volatility. German traders introduced it to Europe again, where artisans of the Art Nouveau era, Lalique, Fouquet, and others, embraced its fiery translucence as a metaphor for creative emotion. In Japan, it was gifted to artists as a charm for inspiration. In India, to lovers as a token of fidelity through change. Wherever it traveled, people saw in it the same truth. that light and emotion are strongest when they are unstable. Hold a fire opal to the sun, and it comes alive. Move it, and it dies. Transformation here happens in seconds. The same stone that blazes with life can fade to silence the moment light leaves it. That is the nature of its power. It does not symbolize endurance like garnet or authority like imperial topaz. It symbolizes the fleeting intensity of feeling itself. Passion, courage, fear, the forces that ignite and consume us. It reminds us that emotion is a kind of fire, and that the human heart, like volcanic rock, must melt before it can shine. Fire opal stands at number 10 in this countdown because it embodies change through emotion, the transformation that burns, trembles, and cools all at once. It teaches that vulnerability is not weakness, but the condition of beauty, that to glow is to risk breaking. If this gem's story moved you, if you've ever felt light and fire coexist within the exact moment, leave a comment and share your thoughts. Can something born of flame and water teach us how to hold our own passion without letting it consume us? Ranked ninth, rutilated quartz, the beauty written in flaw. At first it looked broken. When early miners found quartz filled with strange golden needles, they thought the earth had failed, that something impure had invaded the crystal. For centuries, traders rejected it, calling it hair quartz, a flawed cousin unworthy of the clear, perfect stones prized by jewelers. But what they mistook for damage was something else entirely: nature experimenting with light. Those golden threads are rutile, a titanium oxide that once crystallized inside molten rock before being trapped within growing quartz. Each needle is a record of two minerals forming at two different times, a geological duet frozen mid-song. As the quartz continued to grow, it wrapped those delicate filaments inside, turning what could have been a fracture into a painting of light. What humans call imperfection, the earth calls collaboration. No pattern repeats. Each gem is a singular event, light sculpted by accident. Most deposits lie in the mountains of Brazil, Madagascar, and Pakistan, where hydrothermal fluids once coursed through volcanic fractures. As temperatures dropped, quartz formed first, then rutile intruded, stitching itself through the still soft crystal. Geologists call it epitaxial growth, one structure borrowing another's shape to survive. The result is a paradox. The more disorder inside the stone, the more beautiful it becomes. In Renaissance Europe, alchemists hoarded these strange crystals, convinced the golden filaments were trapped sunlight or even the hair of Venus. They used them in amulets to capture inspiration, believing imperfection invited divine intervention. By the Victorian era, jewelers rediscovered the gem and gave it new life. They called it Venus hair quartz and set it in mourning jewelry, a reminder that beauty often comes from what remains fractured. To modern gemologists, rutilated quartz is still unpredictable. No two stones grow the same way. Each filament obeys chaos, not symmetry. When light passes through it, refraction splits across hundreds of microsurfaces, creating an internal shimmer that feels almost alive. The needles can be gold, red, silver, or even black, depending on the iron content of the rutile. Each one scatters light like a whisper of lightning sealed inside the stone. Economically, it's an accessible gem, but symbolically, it's priceless. Designers use it to express individuality, the acceptance of flaw as art. Collectors prize specimens where rutile forms a perfect star or spiral, a cosmic pattern created purely by chance. Its value defies the traditional rule of clarity. Here, inclusion is the soul of beauty. Each filament bends light in its own direction, yet together they form harmony. A lesson that change is not the removal of flaw, but its transformation into design. Rutilated quartz embodies the power of change through imperfection. Where smoky quartz showed invisible transformation and fire opal glowed with emotion, rutilated quartz shows that disorder itself can be the catalyst of evolution. It reminds us that the earth does not hide its flaws, it reframes them. Every fracture becomes a brushstroke. Every intrusion becomes a spark. In an age obsessed with purity, this stone offers quiet rebellion. It whispers that clarity without character is emptiness, and that the true mark of change is not perfection, but acceptance. Rutilated quartz sits at number 9 because it redefines what beauty means. It turns imperfection into light, mistake into art, and chaos into order. Proof that transformation begins the moment we stop trying to be flawless. If nature's flaws can turn glass into gold, what might our own imperfections be trying to create in us? Ranked 8th, Andalusite, the stone that changes when you do. It does not sparkle, it does not glow. It simply shifts quietly every time you move. One gem, 3 colors, one lesson. Truth depends on where you stand. This is Andalusite, a crystal that refuses to be defined by a single shade. Look from one direction and it burns golden brown. Tilt it slightly and olive green takes over. Turn again and a flash of rose or crimson crosses its surface. Scientists call it pleochroism, the ability of a mineral to absorb and reflect different wavelengths of light depending on orientation. But Andalusite turns that optical trick into philosophy. Change is not in the stone, but in the eye that sees it. The gem was first discovered in Andalusia, Spain, in the 18th century, a region of shifting light where deserts meet the sea and shadows move like living things. Its color dance baffled early gem cutters who tried to orient it for maximum brilliance, only to find that every cut revealed a different truth. Unlike other gems that chase uniformity, Andalusite demanded acceptance of duality. Geologically, Andalusite is a product of metamorphism, when clay-rich rocks endure both heat and pressure, but stop short of melting. That balance between destruction and endurance allows the atoms to align in orthorhombic symmetry, the secret behind its shifting colors. It is born not from extremes, but from restraint. Historically, Andalusite never became a gemstone of royalty or conquest. It was a philosopher's gem, favored by scholars and monks who saw in its mutable hues the nature of understanding itself. In the 19th century, French naturalists collected it as an example of optical paradox, calling it the moral stone because it teaches that what we see depends on how we look. In parts of South America, miners call it piedra del equilibrio, the stone of balance. They wear it as protection against judgment and rigidity. Its cross-pattern variety, known as chiastolite, even resembles a natural symbol of harmony, a black graphite cross within a clear crystal field, formed by carbon impurities aligning during growth. To ancient mystics, that cross was no coincidence. It was the universe's geometry appearing in stone, proof that order and chaos can coexist without conflict. The gem does not change, you do. Every shift of angle rewrites what light reveals. This property made it a favorite among gem cutters seeking a challenge. Unlike diamond or sapphire, Andalusite resists symmetry. Cut too deep and the colors fade, too shallow and one hue dominates. The perfect cut is not one of control, but of cooperation, letting the gem decide what it wants to show. In that sense, it is the most honest of stones. It teaches humility to those who shape it. Today, most Andalusite comes from Brazil, Sri Lanka, and Madagascar. Though not rare, fine specimens with vivid tricolor shifts command respect among collectors. They are subtle, unassuming at first glance, until they catch the right light and reveal their secret. And that is precisely why it belongs in this series. The power of change is not always violent, emotional, or grand. Sometimes it is perception itself that transforms the world around us. Andalusite's lesson is simple yet profound. When light changes direction, so does truth. In a time when certainty feels like strength, this gem reminds us that clarity is not about seeing one color. It is about recognizing them all. Perspective, like light, must move to stay alive. If every truth changes with the light, is transformation the only constant we can ever trust? Ranked 7th. Spinel, the gem that forgot its name. In 1367, during England's wars with France, a gemstone weighing over 170 carats was set above the brow of the Black Prince's helmet. It glowed blood red under torchlight, fierce, royal, invincible. That gem, later mounted in Britain's imperial state crown, became one of the most famous rubies in history. But it wasn't ruby at all. It was spinel. The same misidentification stretched across continents. In Persia's Mughal Empire, the Timurid princes hoarded blood-red spinels from the mines of Badakhshan, the Balas rubies. Each was inscribed with the names of conquerors: Aurangzeb, Shah Jahan, Timur. For centuries, these stones symbolized empire and bloodline. Yet beneath the inscriptions lay a quieter truth. They were all members of another species entirely. Under a spectroscope, spinel's secret reveals itself. A single sharp absorption line where ruby shows two. Science, not power, finally gave it its name. Geologically, spinel forms in metamorphic limestone and magnesium-rich marble, the crucibles of pressure and heat that forge identity through conflict. Its perfect octahedral crystals are cubes that grew with edges sharpened by tension. While rubies belong to the corundum family, spinel is magnesium aluminum oxide. Simpler in composition, but often purer in form. Nature, it seems, gave spinel the same color, but a different soul. In its pure state, spinel is colorless. But add chromium, and it ignites to crimson. Add cobalt, and it turns blue. Iron shifts it toward violet or black. Every hue marks a different story. Proof that identity, even in stone, is the sum of what it has endured. It wasn't until the 18th century that mineralogists separated spinel from ruby, using light and chemistry to expose centuries of confusion. The revelation shocked the royal houses of Europe. Crowns once thought to hold the rarest rubies were suddenly filled with impostors. But in truth, spinel had never pretended. It had simply been seen wrong. In the modern era, gemologists reclaimed their dignity. Fine crimson spinel from Burma, vivid pinks from Mahenge in Tanzania, and neon blues from Sri Lanka now stand among the most coveted gemstones on earth. The same gem that once wore another's name now commands respect under its own. Hold a spinel beside a ruby, and they glow like siblings separated by story. The ruby burns steadily. The spinel flickers, more playful, more human. Spinel's journey is not just mineralogical, it is existential. It embodies what happens when truth outlives misconception. For centuries, it was a gem without identity. Today, it is the symbol of self-recognition. Its change was not in structure or color, but in perception. The same shift humanity must learn to make when it misjudges what it does not yet understand. Collectors call it the phoenix of gems, reborn from misidentification into authenticity. Spinel teaches that not every mistake is a loss. Sometimes misunderstanding is just the first step toward revelation. Spinel stands at number 7 because it marks the series' turning point, from the Earth's physical transformations to the human ones. It reminds us that the power of change is not only geological, it is personal. It is the courage to reclaim your name, even after history has forgotten it. If identity can be hidden in plain sight for 1,000 years, how many truths around us are still waiting to be seen for what they are? Ranked 6th, sunstone, the gem that taught light to dance. At first glance, it looks ordinary, a pale crystal with faint golden sparkles. But tilt it once, and the room catches fire. Tiny flashes leap inside it like sunlight on water, alive, moving, unstoppable. This is sunstone, the gem that turned light itself into an instrument of change. Sunstone is a member of the feldspar family, a mineral born in the cooling crust of volcanic rock. Inside that molten chaos, thin plates of copper and hematite crystallized within the stone. They became mirrors, microscopic fields that reflect and scatter light. Geologists call this optical effect aventurescence, but it feels more like alchemy. Metal turned to shimmer, darkness to gold. Each flash you see is a reflection off one of those copper plates, only a few microns thick. When sunlight moves across the gem, those plates align and ignite, creating a blaze that seems to float just beneath the surface. No other gemstone captures motion the way sunstone does. It doesn't just hold light, it plays with it. Each one scatters brightness, proving that illumination is not a single beam, but 1,000 fragments working together. Long before gemology named it, sailors of the Viking Age carried pieces of feldspar, believed to hold the sun's spirit. They used it to navigate the open sea, even when clouds hid the horizon. By rotating the stone and watching the direction of polarized light, they could find the sun's position with uncanny precision. Centuries later, scientists confirmed the myth. Iceland's spar, a variety of transparent feldspar related to sunstone, really could locate the sun by refracting polarized light. The legend survived because it was true in two ways, physically and symbolically. The Vikings used it to find their course. The modern world uses it to remember that light, no matter how scattered, always points home. The rediscovery of sunstone came not from the sea but from the earth. In the 19th century, miners in Norway, India, and later Oregon unearthed crystals that shimmered like metallic flame. Oregon's sunstone, colored by traces of copper, became America's own stone of sunlight. Its color shifts from peach to red to green depending on orientation. Another kind of transformation through light. In jewelry, it was adored by Art Nouveau designers for its warmth. Together, they formed a cosmic pair, the lunar and the solar, reflection and radiance. Yet beyond culture or trade, sunstone's real story remains one of resilience. It is a crystal born from the cooling of lava. Chaos frozen into brilliance. It turned what was once destroyed into what now shines. Each one is a fragment of sunlight reborn from volcanic fire. In a world obsessed with permanence, sunstone celebrates impermanence. Its glow depends on motion. Stop moving, and the light fades. It teaches that illumination is not something we possess. It's something we create through interaction. Light changes because we do. That is why sunstone stands at number 6 in this journey. It represents change through light, the transformation that occurs when energy meets matter, when perception meets movement, when darkness learns to refract. Its brilliance reminds us that every spark, no matter how brief, is proof that transformation has happened. Gold flashes bloom and disappear, then silence. Only the memory of brightness remains. Sunstone's message is simple. Change is not always about survival or endurance. Sometimes it's about learning how to shine, again and again, no matter how many times the light fades. If light itself must move to stay alive, what does that say about the way we should live, love, and change? Ranked 5th, malachite, the stone that grew from decay. Every gem begins with life, but this one starts with death. Malachite is the color of rebirth, yet it is born from corrosion. Where copper once gleamed metallic blue in veins of ore, it slowly surrendered to air, water, and time. What should have been ruin became renewal. Metal transformed into mineral, oxidation into art. If garnet was reborn in fire, malachite was reborn in rain. Deep in the Congo Basin, in Russia's Ural Mountains, and across the deserts of Namibia, veins of copper ore lie open to the world. When oxygen and carbonated water seep through the cracks, they begin a slow chemical reaction. Copper carbonate hydroxide starts to crystallize. Layer upon layer grows outward, painting circular bands of green. Forest, mint, emerald, moss. Each ring marks a moment of environmental change, a record of rainfall, temperature, even climate shifts over thousands of years. To the earth, malachite is a weather report written in stone. That is the paradox of malachite. What looks alive is born from decay. Beauty here is not created. It accumulates. Humanity has known malachite longer than almost any gem. Egyptians mined it 4,000 years ago from the Sinai and the Eastern Desert, grinding it into green pigment for murals and eyeliner. To them, its color was the breath of the goddess Hathor. Fertility, renewal, the endless cycle of death and rebirth. Pharaohs were buried with malachite amulets to ensure resurrection in the afterlife. To the Greeks, it was malach, the soft stone, the color of the heart's renewal. To the Russians, it became imperial. Massive malachite columns once lined the halls of the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, a monument to the marriage between nature's corrosion and human grandeur. But even in its beauty, there is a warning. Malachite contains copper. The same element that gives it life can also make it toxic when mishandled. Artists who ground it into powder risked poisoning from the dust. A reminder, Transformation always asks for something in return. In the modern world, malachite is still mined near the copper belts of the Congo and Zambia. It forms botryoidal clusters and stalactitic tubes that glisten when cut open. No two pieces ever look alike. Each is a fingerprint of the environment that made it. Scientifically, it continues to fascinate geologists because it bridges two realms, the metallic and the mineral, the lifeless and the living. It is both the evidence of oxidation and its reward. Every shade of green represents a stage of reaction, nature's chemistry lesson carved in color. Rotate a polished slab under the light and it seems to move, a landscape of growth frozen mid-breath. In malachite, even stillness feels alive. Malachite stands at number 5 in this journey because it is the power of change through environment made visible. It teaches that transformation is not always violent. Sometimes it is the slow, patient conversation between element and atmosphere. It is the proof that decay can become design, that even rust can evolve into a pattern. In a broader sense, malachite mirrors humanity's relationship with the planet. What we expose, we also alter. What we break open, we also beautify. The green of malachite is the color of consequence, not punishment, but awareness. It reminds us that change, whether in metal or in civilization, is the act of nature reclaiming balance. This is the Earth's way of saying, even corrosion can create something worth keeping. If time can turn rust into emerald, what might our own scars become if we gave them enough years to breathe? Ranked 4th, labradorite, the stone that remembered the northern lights. At first it was nothing, a dull gray stone flecked with hints of green, hardly worth a second glance. Then someone turned it, just slightly, and the world inside it ignited. From the shadow-burst ribbons of blue, gold, and violet, like trapped auroras fighting to escape. That was the first recorded moment of labradorescence, the shimmering fire that turned obscurity into awe. This is labradorite, the gem that proved that reflection, not radiance, is what makes light divine. Labradorite was discovered in 1770 on the bleak, windswept coast of Labrador, Canada. Local Inuit peoples already knew it well. They believed the northern lights once fell to earth and became trapped in the rocks. A warrior struck them with his spear, freeing most of the light back to the sky, but a fragment remained forever bound within stone. To science, it was a plagioclase feldspar, its colors born not of pigment, but of interference. Thin layers of crystalline lamellae, bending light into color. To legend, it was the sky remembering what it once was. Each one reflects a slightly different wavelength, and together they create the illusion of living light. Geologically, labradorite forms deep within igneous rock as molten minerals cool at different rates. Tiny distortions in the crystal lattice trap light, not perfectly, but beautifully. It is those imperfections that make it glow. Once again, the earth reveals a familiar truth. Flaw is the birthplace of wonder. Wherever it went, the message stayed the same. Light and darkness are not enemies. They are partners in transformation. Without shadow, there can be no color. Move the gem once, and blue gives way to green. Move it again, and gold flashes, then violet. It never looks the same twice. A reminder that reflection is not repetition, but reinvention. Labradorite's story is not about perfection or purity. It's about revelation. The discovery of brilliance through motion and contrast. Its optical illusion, known as labradorescence, is the result of structural disorder at the microscopic level. What the earth disrupted, light perfected. This is change through reflection, not transformation of substance, but of vision. In spiritual lore, it's called the stone of transformation. Shamans used it for insight, believing it bridges worlds, physical and metaphysical. In modern symbolism, it represents awakening, the moment we see ourselves differently under new light. Psychologists might call it projection. Poets would call it truth revealed. Either way, it's reflection that transforms. In a way, labradorite is the perfect metaphor for the age we live in, a world that mistakes brightness for depth. Unlike gems that shine by clarity, labradorite shines by contrast. It teaches that brilliance is born from resistance, That only when light meets obstacle does beauty emerge. Every color it shows is the product of interference. Every flash the result of friction. It is the physics of transformation turned into art. Today, labradorite continues to fascinate scientists, jewelers, and mystics alike. Each crystal is a fragment of the same cosmic lesson, that change does not erase darkness, it illuminates it. A single beam of light glides across, awakening galaxies within. Labradorite stands at number 4 in this journey because it represents change through reflection, the transformation that happens not when we escape shadow, but when we learn to reflect it. It reminds us that the same light that blinds can also reveal, depending on how we face it. If every color is born from reflection, is transformation simply the moment we decide to stop absorbing and start reflecting? Ranked third, alexandrite, the stone that changed with the light. By daylight, it was green, calm, deep, noble. But under candlelight, it turned red, fierce as a heart on fire. The same gem, two colors, two worlds. This was alexandrite, the stone that refused to stay one thing. The story begins in 1830, deep in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Miners searching for emeralds uncovered crystals that seemed identical until night fell. What had shimmered green under the sun now glowed crimson in the light of their campfires. They thought it was witchcraft. It was physics. Alexandrite is a variety of chrysoberyl colored by chromium, the same element that gives emerald its green, but its crystal structure splits light in two. In sunlight, rich in blue and green wavelengths, it absorbs red and reflects green. Under lamplight, rich in yellow and red, it absorbs green and releases fire. One gem, two truths, each revealed only under a different condition. Alexandrite is the Earth's lesson in contrast, how context defines reality. The miners named it after the young Tsarevich Alexander II, heir to the Russian throne. Its two colors, red and green, mirrored the imperial flag of Russia. To the nobility, it became the stone of power and loyalty, symbolizing the balance between courage and wisdom. Catherine's court adored it. Soldiers carried it into battle as a charm for victory. But history, like light, shifts. By the early 20th century, the empire fell, the monarchy vanished, and alexandrite, once the stone of rulers, became the stone of transformation itself. It had survived the fall of the world that named it. Its meaning evolved from royalty to rebirth. In a single century, its identity changed as completely as its color. Few gemstones express change as elegantly as alexandrite. Its dual colors are not a flaw, but a feature of its atomic architecture. Each crystal acts like a prism, filtering light based on the environment. To one observer, it is green, to another, red, to both, true. Its message is universal. What you see depends on the light you choose to stand in. Fine specimens can shift from emerald green to blood red, so entirely that they seem alive. Gemologists describe it as emerald by day, ruby by night. Collectors call it the stone of becoming. Tilt it once and you see reason. Tilt it again and you see emotion. It is the gemstone embodiment of the human condition. Alexandrite's beauty lies not in consistency, but in contradiction. It does not choose between day and night, warmth and cold, logic and passion. It embraces both. It teaches that change does not always mean leaving one thing behind. Sometimes it means learning to hold two truths at once. In modern symbolism, it speaks to identity and adaptation, the ability to evolve without losing essence. Every color shift is a reminder that transformation is not replacement, but revelation. In the gem's changing hues, we see ourselves, calm one moment, aflame the next, both equally real. Change, it tells us, is not about becoming someone else, but discovering the rest of who we already are. Alexandrite stands at number 3 in this journey because it is the power of change through duality made visible. It reminds us that life, like light, is never single-colored. The world changes not when we pick one side, but when we learn to exist between them. If truth can change with the light, is transformation contradiction or completion? Ranked second, moldavite, the gem that fell from the stars. 15 million years ago, the sky fell. A meteor, nearly a kilometer wide, struck what is now southern Germany. The impact vaporized rock, ignited forests, and carved the Reese crater, a wound 24 kilometers across. Temperatures rose higher than the surface of the sun. For an instant, the earth melted. Then, as molten debris hurled into the upper atmosphere began to cool and rain back down, something new was born. Droplets of liquefied silica solidified in flight, frozen into translucent green glass. They landed hundreds of kilometers away, scattered across what we now call Bohemia, Moravia, and southern Germany. That celestial fallout became moldavite, the only gemstone born from both heaven and earth. But its story is not about origin, it's about consequence. Inside each olive green fragment lies a record of cosmic violence turned to elegance. Each bubble trapped inside is ancient air, a breath of the Miocene atmosphere. No two pieces are alike. Each bears its own scars of speed, heat, and survival. Scientists can trace its birthplace to a single explosion, yet its destiny spans continents. Every shard of moldavite is a message. Impact can also create. Long before science named it, moldavite appeared in European legend as the Voltavine, the stone of the Vltava River. Medieval monks carved it into rosaries, calling it a gift from heaven. In the 19th century, when geologists confirmed its extraterrestrial origin, fascination deepened. It was no longer merely a gemstone, it was a relic of the stars. Collectors in Bohemia wore it as a charm for transformation and spiritual awakening. Writers compared its deep green glow to the Holy Grail, the vessel said to have fallen from the sky, carrying divine change. In modern crystal lore, moldavite is said to trigger profound shifts in consciousness. Too powerful for the unready, some warn. Whether mystical or material, its influence has always been the same. It disrupts, then awakens. Hold it to the light, and its color is unlike any other green, not of forest or sea, but of comet trails and lightning. Today, moldavite is found only in the Czech Republic, primarily around the Moldau River Valley. Each piece is small, rarely more than 20 grams, yet priceless for its rarity. As mining increases and reserves dwindle, every fragment becomes a relic of cosmic history. Gem cutters shape it minimally, respecting its natural form. Even the finest lab-made glass cannot mimic their internal texture, the signature of chaos frozen in perfection. To scientists, moldavite represents a geological miracle, proof that destruction can become creation. To humanity, it is the embodiment of rebirth through shock, the idea that something must first be shattered to take on new form. Moldavite stands at number 2 because it is the most dramatic expression of the power of change. Instantaneous, violent, irreversible. It shows that transformation is not always slow like smoky quartz or patient like malachite. Sometimes it is explosive. Yet within that violence lies peace, a gem that glows with quiet green light, its edges softened by time. 15 million years after its creation, people hold it in their hands and feel something ancient stir. Not fear, but recognition. Because we too are shaped by impacts, events that strike without warning, shatter what we were, and reveal what we can become. Its surface, etched by fire, catches a beam of light and glows, a fragment of the universe learning to shine again. Moldavite's story is not about catastrophe. It is about consequence, proof that even a collision can lead to creation, and that sometimes the universe must break to evolve. If every impact changes the earth, which of our own collisions will turn into the glass through which future light will shine? In first place, obsidian, the mirror that remembered fire. Before diamonds, before jade, before glass, there was this, a black mirror, sharp as truth, smooth as water, born from fire, the first gemstone humanity ever touched, and perhaps the first to make us see ourselves. This is obsidian, the volcanic glass that taught civilization the power of reflection. When lava meets air and cools too fast to crystallize, it becomes obsidian, pure, natural glass forged in seconds. It holds no visible structure, yet inside atomic patterns twist like frozen waves. Every edge is potential, every surface a reflection of what created it. Volcanoes from Mexico to Armenia, from Iceland to Japan, have produced it for millennia. Each eruption creates a new generation, jet black, mahogany swirled, or flecked with gold. Where others see destruction, the earth sees opportunity, fire learning restraint. Its texture is flawless, yet fragile. Touch it wrong, and it cuts deeper than steel. Shape it right, and it becomes a window. In temples of Teotihuacan, priests polished it into circular mirrors used not for vanity, but for vision. They believed the dark glass opened a doorway between worlds, that by staring into it, one might see not the face, but the soul. To the Aztec god Tezcatlipoca, whose name means smoking mirror, obsidian was both weapon and oracle, the tool through which humanity first confronted its reflection in the void. Archaeologists have found ritual mirrors so finely polished they still reflect after 1,000 years. Black pools where the light bends inward, not out. Geologically, obsidian is a paradox. It is solid yet amorphous, neither crystal nor liquid. It freezes light, but gives none of its own. Its composition mirrors the fragility of glass and the strength of stone. When broken, it conchoidally fractures, leaving curved surfaces as perfect as ripples on water. Each piece is the record of a moment when magma cooled too fast for order to form. In that chaos, perfection appeared. It is nature's way of saying, form is born from formlessness. Among all gemstones, obsidian is the most honest. It does not dazzle, it reveals. It forces you to look inward, to confront what is hidden beneath the shine. Its blackness absorbs light, turning brightness into silence. That silence is its power. It teaches that transformation begins not in creation, but in recognition. In spiritual traditions, obsidian is called the mirror stone. It is said to expose what we fear, dissolve illusion, and demand truth. But even without mysticism, its symbolism is clear. Every civilization that discovered obsidian used it to see itself. In reflection, in weapons, in art. From cutting tools to crystal balls, it bridged the distance between survival and awareness. Hold it to your face, and you will not see light, only form, depth, shadow. Yet in that darkness, your outline emerges sharper than ever. That is why obsidian stands at number one. Because in the end, the power of change is not in color, or fire, or rarity, it is in recognition. The same fire that made obsidian also made us. Both learned to cool, to shape, to reflect. Obsidian closes the story that began 15 gems ago. From smoky quartz's invisible transformation to moldavite's cosmic birth. Here change turns inward. It stops being an external event and becomes a state of awareness. The final metamorphosis is seeing yourself clearly without distortion, without light. The reflection is dim, only eyes and the faint flicker of fire behind them. If this stone's black mirror stirred something in you, leave a comment and share your thoughts. When the light fades and only reflection remains, who do you become? The earth never stops changing, and neither do we. Every gem we've seen was once something else. Stone turned to fire, pressure turned to beauty, darkness turned to light. From smoky quartz to obsidian, each crystal carried the same truth. Change is not destruction, it's transformation. The same forces that shape these stones shape us too. Time, heat, struggle, and renewal. So when everything around you feels uncertain, remember, even the deepest fracture can become the start of brilliance. The earth teaches one lesson over and over. We are all works in progress, carved by change, refined by time, and meant to shine. Thank you for watching Tops, where every stone tells a story of becoming.